Here we go. Welcome everybody to the Focus and Flow for stress and burnout. Hands up if you have been feeling stressed or burnt out recently. Can you give us a yes? And as we get started, this is going to be a really interactive, fun event. Thank you for joining us. And the more feedback you give us, those that are live on the call, the better it's going to be for you. So feel free to share, and it's a safe place for you to share. And who knows that most of the world is feeling anxious or stressed right now, right? It's an epidemic. So we know it's a massive issue. I'm so glad that you've taken the time out to come today and invested your time. The reason why we're running this event is because as high performers and working in this field, I've been working in this field for over 30 years with companies like Nestle and universities at C-level, board level, entrepreneurs. And I started studying neuroscience when I was 12 years old. I had such a fascination for human behavior and overcoming, right? And there's a whole lot of reasons and a story behind that. But I started to realize about 4 or 5 years ago, before COVID, when I would go into companies, I started to notice that there were more and more high performers who were struggling. In fact, in one of the organizations, I went in and did some whole brain profiling, and I profiled about 100 people, and about 80% of them started to cry in our 1 hour session. I'm known for making grown men in black suits cry, but I mean, the amount of people who were so emotional and so stressed, and this was before COVID, let alone all the craziness online. So you are in the right place at the right time today, and we're thankful that you've come. We're going to be sharing with you today some strategies. We're going to have some fun. We're going to do an activity to help you rewire. Who would like that? And before we even really get started, I want you to write down, what is the one thing you're struggling with the most now? Maybe it is burnout. Maybe it's procrastination. Maybe it is just not being able to focus for very long or being distracted. A lot of creatives get very distracted very quickly. Hands up if you're a creative. And there's a reason for that, because we process information in different parts of our brain. And highly creative people, when you process in that part of your brain, you often have a lot of simultaneous thoughts at the one time. So it can be a struggle to focus and hone in and to finish. Who has trouble with finishing what you start? Because we get that dopamine hit from the new thing. And how do I know? Because I've been there. And so over the years, as I started to train in whole brain and a number of neuroscience modalities, I started to recognize that in myself and have to train my brain and train my clients to shift quickly and become agile in their thinking style. What would it look like if you were able to get into a state of flow? So let me explain a bit about flow to you. And then what we're going to do is give you a bit of a framework about focus and flow and the cycle, and how can you move quickly into a higher state, have the highest belief on a Sunday, and on Monday morning, you can wake up in the morning and you can have those anxious thoughts running through your mind as quickly as a rabbit runs up a tree. Well, rabbits don't run up trees, but anyway. So let me talk about flow for a minute. You know, flow for me is a state of what I call your highest state. And I've experienced flow. Who's experienced flow state? Think about, when do you feel like you're in flow? And let me describe flow a little bit for you. Flow is a place where you are completely in a state of concentrated focus. It's like riding that wave. If you're a surfer or you like to swim, it's like when you've swum 50 laps and you get in the zone. Maybe it's when you're singing or writing or doing art. What does that state of flow look like for you? And I'd love to see some of you tell me, when are you most in flow? Because the reality is we're not all in flow all the time. But when we are in flow, oh my gosh, the things that can happen. And I'm going to describe really quickly something that happened for me in a state of flow that I had felt, whatever you believe. But for me, God spoke to me and he said, I want you to go and catch a whale. And I'm like, what's a whale? And he said, 6 figures in 6 weeks. And I'm like, okay. And so I set my focus on that because I knew in my heart that I had heard from God to achieve a goal. And can I tell you, what happens in flow is time is collapsed. You know, when you just lose track of time, time is collapsed and you can achieve things very quickly. So flow is the part of the goal for us to be able to access flow more often. What stops us from being in flow? Many things stop us from being in flow. Our physiology, which I'll talk to in a moment, anxiety, fear. Are we aware of what we're feeling in our bodies? And on this mission that I have, I fully believe that we have a higher calling and that we have all the gifts within us to be able to operate at such a high level and change lives and make more impact and also make a lot of money. And I've seen so many gifted people who are struggling and in pain because of their anxious thoughts, because of their distraction, because of their struggle to stay energized over the long haul. And a lot of this is to do with the neurochemicals and long times of cortisol, which will put you into burnout. And a lot of high performers think, and I used to be like this, and I learned this, I'd go on this roller coaster ride because a lot of high performers think that the longer you work, the more you'll get done. And most of us have been trained to work long hours, right? To work hard, to do the 9 to 5. That's how we've been trained. And so even as entrepreneurs, where we should be able to collapse time and have concentrated periods of productive time, what happens is we just keep going on and on, and then we start watering down our ability to produce. So that's a bit of a frame up for you. Let me introduce myself formally. My name is Louise Taylor. I am a neurostrategist. I'm a prophetic growth consultant, and I have founded Neuroflow, which is a methodology which pulls together the spiritual, the practical, the whole brain science, and the emotional so that you can completely shift your state and learn how to be agile and learn how to achieve more in your life and recognize how to move through all these stages of your life with confidence, with clarity. So this is part of our methodology. We talk a lot about the kind of states that you are in. So I mentioned your beliefs, your state being your physiology, and the way that you process and frame and believe and what you think about, what meaning you put to things, and obviously your language as well, all play a part in you achieving your dreams, you achieving that higher calling, you being able to move quickly out of those states of anxiety or burnout or fear and into flow. So this survival state, what often happens is you've probably, I'm sure, heard of fight or flight. We're often in a state of fear and anxiety, and that can happen when we are going through something that's extremely, obviously stressful. Like we had some very tough financial years, and it went on for a while. A lot of financial trauma that we weren't expecting, companies closing down, that sort of thing. And I remember being 9 months pregnant, and my husband came home, and their company had put all the employees off, and we had a mortgage, 18% interest rates, and I was in that state of survival, and I'd already had a thing about being anxious about money, which is why I ended up going into this field and love helping people make money. But when you're in that survival state, you can't even think straight, right? You're either on the bed going, what am I going to do? And you can't get motivated, or you're actually hyper aroused where you're trying to do everything and you're super busy and you're running all the time and you're rushing all the time. And so you can't function properly. So the transition state, which I believe a lot of people are in transition at the moment because of everything that's changed in the world with AI, with everything else, people are having to rethink, what am I going to do? How am I going to pivot? And thankfully, I look back over the years and go, oh, gosh, all of this was training ground for me to learn to pivot quickly when things got hard. And I love helping people to pivot because if you can't pivot, you're done, baby. You're going to get left behind. So when you're in transition, one of the reasons why you have a lot of uncertainty and stress, and that's where you can often get confused or distracted, is because you're in preparation for that next season of your life. And you don't often have clarity about that next thing. You're trying to work out, what am I going to do next? You're not sure how to do it. You may not have enough information. And so then you're in that state of stress or uncertainty. And then that highest state of flow is what I described earlier. So I'd love you to write down, what place are you in right now? And honestly, no judgment here. I've been in all those places. And to be honest, we move between those places. And like I said, Sunday morning, I remember being Sunday, I'm in church, I'm worshiping, I'm in peace, I feel awesome, I've got joy. And then I come home and Monday morning, I used to be in a very senior corporate role, very stressful Monday morning meetings talking about numbers. And instantly, the Louise from Sunday was a different person from the Louise from Monday. Has anyone experienced that before? And so it's almost like you turn into this, like, screaming crazy lunatic because something has triggered you. So we're going to do an activity about triggering in a minute because we have to learn to manage our state, our physiology. So some of you have said you're in transition, between transition and a higher state. That's good to see. Arlene's one of our clients, so she's actually learnt a lot about tapping into that higher state for a longer period of time. And recognizing where am I is great because you can start to locate yourself when you're on the journey and know that this is normal and go, okay, what's going on for me? Oh, I've woken up in fear and anxiety. How can I shift this quickly? So let me share a little bit, speak to the quantum science, and then we're going to do this fun activity. Is everyone with me? How are you feeling? How are you feeling right now as I'm talking about all this stuff? Because your brain is going to be searching, going, oh gosh, I hope this works. And there's going to be questions going on like, how can I do this? How can I shift? How can I practically shift out of this place? So let me share with you my perspective. So we have three different worlds that we live in. And the natural world is where we're doing the stuff, where we're learning skills, where we're doing the work. We're just being normal, right? Not that any of us are normal, but we're being normal. Hands up if you're not normal. I love not being normal. It's so fun. It's too boring being normal. Basically, I think pioneers and leaders and eagles really aren't very normal because nobody's gone before you. So you're always going to be doing something different. That was a little bomb for somebody out there who's like going, why does everyone think I'm weird? So the natural world is doing the skills. I call it like golden spade. You've got the handle, which is wood, and that's learning the skills and doing the work. And then we have that middle realm, which is quantum science. And so we're going to speak to that because a lot of people think, oh, that sounds, when we use the word frequency, it sounds like a bit, oh, is that a bit new agey? But science, I believe, well, God, he created the world. So science comes from, I believe, from God. And so we can't just run away and hide and avoid science just because people have used it in a way that doesn't align with our values. And quantum science is amazing. And in that, I put in there things like brainwaves, things like, how are you feeling in your body, your physiology, your neuro. And then we have our spiritual intelligence. What I see happen a lot is I meet people who've got an incredible amount of gifts, spiritual gifts. They can access this place, they can get download, as we call it, or divine intelligence, which I know I've experienced, and then they're working really hard in the natural world. But the thing that's letting them down is their thinking patterns, their belief patterns, the way that they see the world. A lot of people are nodding because we all know we all do this. We all do this. And how can we reframe the way that we think about things? And honestly, it's like going to the gym. It's not something that happens in a minute. And often we'll go to motivational events or different events and we'll feel really great. Who's ever had this happen? And then you come home and you walk in the door and the kids are screaming, or your husband's left the toilet seat up, or you have some bad news, or you try to do something and you get disappointed. And disappointment is a little fox. Let me just throw that one in for free. But you get disappointed, and then all of a sudden you're back down there in survival state or in confusion again. Who's ever experienced that? And that's the reality. And learning the tools, which we have never been taught at school, to be able to consistently shift your mind and your physiology is so key. And this is in this middle realm of quantum science. Let me just explain this in another way for a moment. But thoughts are energy. We create. When God spoke, he spoke and the world was made. And so there's a frequency in your voice. This is why I'm so passionate about voices and whistling. There is a frequency in your voice that people will rise to. And there is a frequency, but if you don't have the energy, you're not going to be speaking, right? You're not going to get online and share what you feel to share. You're not going to get up and speak on those stages or express yourself. And the energy behind the way that you express yourself will tap into people's other energy levels. So if you're operating this low energy, you're going to attract that to you. So this experiment, which was Masaru Emoto, was a Japanese businessman, and he did this experiment with water. And he wanted to see what happened to water when he spoke to the water. So he got a glasses of water and he held the glass of water and he started speaking to the glasses of water. And as he spoke to the glass of water, the actual molecules changed in the water. So you can see here, look at what the I love you molecule of water looked like. And then look at what the polluted water looks like. So he said things, and certain parts of the molecules changed. So if you don't believe in the science and the frequency of your words and the power of your words, that's one example just to help you map it to what you think about all these things. All right, well, we are going to do a fun activity. I'm just going to get you to close your eyes for a moment, if you would like to. And we're just going to regulate your nervous system a little bit. And can I tell you, one of the most easy things to do to regulate your nervous system, and this is not something that you haven't heard before, is to breathe. And I realized when I started studying flow science and became accredited in flow science, I realized that I had forgotten to breathe. I mean, I was breathing, right? But I forgot to use the art of breathing in a way that our bodies are able to regulate from breathing. So I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath in and hold it for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a long breath out. Just breathing all the way out. And then I'm going to get you to breathe in again for 4, hold for 4, and a long breath out. And as you continue to breathe, I want you to notice something. And this is just one of the breathing techniques that we teach, but this breathing technique really helps me a lot with anxious thoughts and with distraction and just waking up feeling quite stressed and anxious. So breathing in, hold, breathing right from your belly, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathing out. And just before you take the next breath in, I want you to notice that little space before you breathe in again. And just breathing in and out at your own pace. Relaxing your body a bit. Shake your shoulders around. Shake your hands. Notice how your feet are feeling. And this is just to regulate your nervous system for this activity that I'm about to do with you. Okay, keep breathing in your own pace. And I want you to think about something that triggers you. It's okay, we're going to move away from this negative thought very quickly. So don't stress out that you started to feel good. Think of one thing that triggers you at the moment. Don't overthink it. Whatever comes to mind is the right thing. Just listen to your intuition. So maybe it is that someone in your life, usually it's a family member, but has triggered you and they've done something that you have a feeling about. Maybe it is that feeling of, oh no, this is going to happen again, or a fear of loss or a worry about something. And I remember I experienced this when we had a number of occasions where we had financial trauma. So it came to the point where, like, sometimes Jim would come home and he'd have a look on his face and I'd instantly feel like something's wrong. Something's gone wrong again. Or the phone would ring and I'd think something's gone wrong. So the brain starts to anchor and associate these feelings to a previous experience, right? So think of a trigger, notice the environment that you're in. And I want you to imagine that picture of yourself feeling that way is in a frame, like a picture frame. Put it in a frame, squish it into a frame. Your brain can do that. Your brain is amazing. Your imagination is amazing. And then I want you to take another big deep breath in and out again. Trust me with the process. And what I want you to now do is I want you to think about how you want to feel. in that situation, how you want to feel. What's the word? Is it calm, confidence, peace, trust, joy? What's the word? And so now I want you to picture yourself achieving the opposite goal from what you were fearing. So say you were fearing that you wouldn't have enough money, for example. I want you to imagine yourself on a holiday at a 5-star resort with your family, going having a massage and oh, hang on, that's right. And so imagine the opposite goal, driving the Maserati. Maybe it's speaking on the stage, whatever it is, imagine the opposite goal and notice the sounds around you. Make sure it's in color. Notice the colors. What are you wearing? Notice your body and how your body is feeling. How are you breathing? What's the look on your face? Like, are you running out of the water? Have you just caught a wave in? What's happening? And I want you to put that movie in another picture frame next to the old one and see it on the wall as if it was a moving picture. And this is what we call reframing. Right. And so we take down that old picture and we put that new picture up on the wall and imagine somewhere in your house that you walk past and you see that picture in your imagination every single day. So when you're ready, no rush, you can open your eyes. When I speak about reframing is about, like, we give everything a meaning. So you can wake up and you can think, I can't keep up with all the marketing, nothing's going right, I can't do it all. And then reframing is actually going, I have 1,000,000,000 opportunities that I could choose today to dream about and think about. Which one am I going to choose? Which one am I going to choose? Am I going to think of things that bring life? And then we want to get our minds and our bodies into alignment. Because if we're out of alignment, we're not in that plumb line. So lastly, let me just quickly take you through very, very briefly the flow cycle. So this is extensive flow program that we run, but I want to just explain the cycle of flow a little bit because it's really important, because when you don't understand when you're moving in and out of flow, you don't really recognize what's going on in your body. So a lot of times people will start something and they're in the struggle phase, right? Their brain's coming, thousands of ideas coming at once. And so you can see the sort of hormones, cortisol, all the different neurochemicals that are firing when you're in a certain part. And often that will happen when you're at the beginning of a project, maybe in that transition state. And you move through that, and then you start to have a release, and you have those beautiful alpha brain waves starting to kick in, where you are starting to move into flow. You're starting to feel, okay, something's starting to work. So, when you feel like when you sit down and you're doing something, or you're painting, or you're writing, or you're speaking, whatever it is. And then when you start getting into flow, you start getting into those gamma theta brain waves where you've got dopamine hit, you've got endorphins, and you start to feel good. You're in that state of concentrated focus and you're going to flow. And what often happens is people either stay in flow too long, where they actually, when they come out of flow, they're kind of burnt that out a little bit. And so there's an art to this whole cycle of how you move in and out of flow. And what I want to really particularly put a point on the recovery, because high performers just keep pushing themselves. They go, 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 go. And this is something I had to really learn, how to reframe the way I thought about time, especially. And because I kind of want to go fast all the time. Who else wants to go fast? Is anyone else here like that? They want to get there fast, right? Most high performers want to get there fast. And I learned, and this is something that even in the last year, God has been teaching me about getting into the rhythm of God in my life. And He started to show me how to work in less hours and how to create a model for my business and my life that doesn't look like anyone else's model, that's customized to me. And so when you learn how to recover, what does recovery look like? Recovery can be doing 2 hours work and then going for a walk. It can be doing the breathing. It can be going and jumping in a cold shower. It can be a whole lot of things. But I want you to just think about, how much time do I give myself to recover? You're either on one end of the scale where you're a hustler and you're hustling all the time, or you're on the other end of the scale and you're like sitting there doing nothing, waiting for it all to fall from the sky. And so we want to find this beautiful rhythm in the middle. So close your eyes for a moment and just give thanks that you're here right now in this moment of time. Some deep breaths in. Let's get into that beautiful state of calming down our nervous system. Breathing in, hold for 4, 2, 3, 1, and then exhale. Just notice that gap before you inhale again, where time stands still. And exhale. And just continuing to breathe. And I'm just going to speak you through a little beautiful prophetic activation, because you're here at this moment in time for a reason. And maybe you've come hungry for something you desperately want to change in your life. And as you're breathing in and out, I'm just going to say shh to any of the thoughts that might hold you back from what you're about to step into in this season of your life. So breathing in and out, shaking down your shoulders, just a quick body scan from the top of your head, like golden oil flowing through to the bottom of your feet. Just noticing the sensation in your feet, feeling centered and grounded. And continuing to do some nice deep breaths. I want you to imagine that you are just walking along and you've come to a mountain and you start to climb up this beautiful mountain. Just climbing in a way or walking along a path in a way that feels comfortable for you. And you come to a little step in the mountain and there's a seat. And on the seat is an old lady, like a grandma. And she's sitting on the seat and she's knitting. And she invites you to come and sit next to her on the seat. And she hands you a ball of wool. And the ball of wool has got knots in it and is tangled. And she asks you to help her to untangle the ball of wool. So you begin to untangle that ball of wool. You see the first knot and you start to untangle it. And as you continue to untangle the wool, you notice the color of the wool. And you begin to roll that wool into a new ball of wool that is going to be reknitted into a beautiful new design, just like your mind has been knitted and formed and wonderfully made for your perfect higher calling, your perfect frequency, your perfect design. And as you sit there, you notice that you'll just slow down. There's no rush to be anywhere. There's nothing you need to do right now. You continue to untangle the wool and you come to a knot that's just too hard to untangle. And so the old lady gives you a pair of scissors and she says, just cut that off, cut off that piece, cut off that knot. And so you cut the knot and cut off the control or anxiety or fear that you were carrying before. And you pick up the next piece of wool and you start to roll it. And you sit there with the sun shining on your face, a little breeze, gently noticing that everything is getting untangled and you are getting reknitted. And sometimes you just have to hand the whole ball over. So if you see someone standing there, or maybe it's the old woman that you hand the old ball over, or maybe it's a man, a father. You hand the ball over when it gets too hard, and you sit and you wait and you notice that there is peace in your mind and your mind is still. There's no noise, it's quiet, and there's space and there's room for your higher calling, for the clarity, for the confidence to come. And you decide to leave that spot. You give the old lady a hug. She gives you a warm hug, gives you some food, and you continue to walk up the mountain to the top of the mountain. Along the way, picking up everything that you need. And as you go higher and higher and higher, your clarity, your confidence increases. And as you continue to walk up the path, you notice that you're letting go of things along the way that are holding you back. Those old beliefs that are keeping you stuck, the fear of failure, any anxiety. Just notice that along the way, you're just leaving it. You're putting it down, because this is what you're being called to in this time, a higher place where you can express yourself fully, you can think clearly, you can have the energy to deliver, to finish, and to be everything that you are called to be. And you come to the top of that mountain and you sit down, and maybe there's someone with you, or maybe you're on your own, and you look out over the horizon, and from that higher place, you remember what you are made for and how all things work together for good. And notice that you had tools that you picked up along the way on this beautiful journey of life, and that you're in the right place at the right time. So take a deep breath in. Notice the horizon. You can stay there for as long as you like, and you can come back to that place. You might see that picture on the wall or out in the horizon of that future you. And you know that life is good and that you have an amazing future ahead of you. So feel free to just come back to that place anytime you want. Leave your picnic blanket there and sit on the top of that mountain and enjoy the view, which is your life, your new territory, where you're about to step into in this time, in this season. A couple of breaths in and out, and then when you're ready, open your eyes. No rush. You don't have to leave that calm. That will stay with you. Maybe put your hand somewhere on your body to anchor that feeling. And remember what it feels like when you're looking from a higher place, when your meaning of life, your meaning of the world comes from a place of confidence and belief and trust. Alrighty, so probably sent you all to sleep now. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. We're so appreciative of your time. We know time is so precious, but we also know that even what you've gone through today, we've had people come on coaching calls like this and go away and do like $18,000 sales and all sorts of amazing things. And I'm never surprised when I had this happen this morning. Actually, somebody messaged me and I'm like, wow, this guy's real mover and shaker. And you start to see those divine opportunities come as you marry your spiritual life, the quantum science, and your emotions and your mind. And then you do the work as well. it's a beautiful convergence, is what I would say. So we're really excited to help more people do that.